Watch me turn my husband's old Coogi into my new Coogi. This is how big it was at first. So this is what I turned it into. All right, so this is how huge this Coogi was. You can see the arms are all the way down to my knees. And I'm also going to alter these jeans because I love the fit of the jeans, but the waist is huge. So I'm going to take the waist in a little bit just to make everything fit. So to begin, I flip the Coogi inside out. And as you can see, this is authentic, honey. All right, so let's get to work. So I started out by cutting off the sleeves. When I cut the sleeves, I made sure to cut on the seam because that's the way you're supposed to do it. All right, so I'm cutting one side, and whatever I do to one side, I immediately do to the other side because I want to make sure that everything is mirrored perfectly. You do not want an irregular sweater. So I'm cutting those sleeves off, and then once I get those sleeves cut off, I'm going to focus on the torso of the sweater. So I got those sleeves, and I'm going to sit them aside. And now I'm gonna do the torso because I gotta make sure it fits. All right, so it looks like a vest now. So to begin with the torso, I'm gonna cut off the excess fabric. But before I cut, what do? You measure. So I measure and then I pin where I'm gonna cut. I measured my body frame first so I know exactly how tight or loose I want this to fit. I actually wanted a tight, loose fit, if that makes any sense. So I'm cutting off the excess fabric, and I made sure to cut within the line of the fabric, if that makes sense, because in my head I figured if I didn't, it would unravel. I don't know if Coogis unravel when you cut them, but yeah. So anyway, and I think that when you cut within the lines and on seams, it just gives it a professional finish to make it look like you brought it like that. So I'm lining up the sleeve now to see where I need to make the divot to reattach the sleeve when I'm done. Because when you cutting off excess fabric, you don't just cut straight up. It's like yeah, I can't explain it. You seamstress out there, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not a seamstress, but I've been doing this for a long time, so I kind of know what I'm doing. All right, now it's just a flap of fabric because I cut up both sides, and now we're gonna get to work with sewing up that third hand. All right, so we're gonna sew from the bottom up because this is just the way I do it. I don't know if this is the right way, but this is the Robin way. So I think also when you sew from the bottom up, it gives you more flexibility with reattaching the arms. Because to me, that's the hardest part, is reattaching the arms. A third hand again. Just kidding. My husband likes to help me with my projects sometimes. Probably because he don't believe in your girl. But he believed after this. Y'all gonna see what I did. Yeah, so I'm sewing up the side. And then I sew up the other side because I told you I mirror everything from one side to the next. And there you go. Back like a vest now, just smaller. All right, time to attach those arms. So I measured from my neck to my shoulder to see what the measurements are because the original shoulder to neck ratio was of course larger. And I'm cutting off that excess fabric now before I reattach the arms. And measuring to make sure all of the fabric that I need cut was cut and that everything is perfect. So now I'm gonna reattach those arms because the measurements match. And I'm gonna measure the arms first because as you saw before, the arms fell all the way to my knees. I want the new arms on this sweater to fall right under my wrist. So that means I have to cut off some excess fabric on the sleeve as well. And I cut the top part because I think that's where you're supposed to cut it. I don't know. I told you, this is the Robin's way. So I cut that off, and then I made sure that both arms were the same length. Cut both arms, and now I'm gonna reattach them onto the vest. So I'm reattaching, and I'm almost done now. Making sure that I get the arms on right. I got one arm on, and I'm working on the other arm. And then I'm cutting off the excess thread, and I'm gonna see what we're working with now. It's looking good so far. All right, you see it, you see it. So now you see those arms are the same length as the sweater, but I'm about to shorten the sweater because I want a crop sweater, because I gotta show these abs, honey. All right, so I think that the easiest way to do this is to fold, sew, and cut. To me, that gives it a professional look when you're finished. So I am measuring to see how short I need the sweater to be, because of course I told you I measured my torso already. So I know how short I want it to fall on my torso. All right, so I am sewing now right on the seam, because I told you that gives it a professional finish. I sewed one side, now I'm gonna fold and sew the other side. And yeah, so that's how I did that. And then we are sewing it right on the seam again. And then once I get all that sewn, I'm gonna cut all that excess fabric off. That was fun. So I cut that excess fabric off, and I made sure that all of the fabric was off, because your girl is low-key a perfectionist, so I wanted to make sure all that excess fabric was out of there, because I wanted it to look like I brought this sweater out of the store, honey. So yeah, you see me cutting off every little piece of excess fabric that I saw. And then once I get this done, it's just one more step, and then we are finished. So now I'm gonna sew the sides at the bottom. I left those open because I knew I had to shorten the sweater. So now I'm gonna sew those up, and then we're done with the sweater part. Time to work with those jeans. So with the jeans, I cut the belt loop off. I cut the Levi sign off, because once I take the waist in, the Levi sign will end up being sewn into the side of my jeans, and that looks crazy. Sometimes I reattach the belt loop and the Levi sign. This time I didn't, because I didn't have time. This whole project took about 5 hours because I wanted to really take my time with it. But this is how everything looked when I was done. And look, y'all. Look. Your girl got skills, okay? I did that.